Good morning, everyone. My name is Holly Magnuson, and I'm here with Shawn Kohrman for the December version of Ask the Security Guy. As a reminder, you will probably see at the lower left-hand corner of the YouTube video a link that says Join the Conversation, and that will allow you to go to the Q&A app where you can submit a question, and we'll try to answer those. We'll do a couple of breaks as we go along this morning, so feel free to ask your questions. And this week, we're going to talk some more about shopping. And Shawn, did you have fun buying me a nice Christmas present on Cyber Monday?
Oh, absolutely. Wait a minute. No.
Bummer.
No, I figured I'd use my bank card and go out to this website I never heard of that didn't end with HTTP and buy you something really obscure.
Nice. So why don't you share with us what are some good practices, because what you just listed were far from good practices, about online shopping and what we need to think about and watch for as we do our online shopping.
Absolutely. So as we're closing in on the holiday season and we had Cyber Monday and Black Friday and all of those fun things, and if you're like me, those are warning indicators, which means that the shopping season is actually upon us, not actually go do any shopping. But for those of you who have more foresight than I do, some tips to be aware of as we prepare for shopping online and using the online tools and resources that are available to us. Cyber Monday as an example. So say, for instance, a couple years ago, I was looking for a very obscure music box, and it was a 40-year-old thing. It was hard to find, and I found it. The problem was it was only available on a site that didn't have a secure checkout mechanism. So I wound up not getting it. Now, something else to consider as you go through these things is as you look at sites like Amazon or eBay even, there are secure payment mechanisms. So the first thing to bear in mind is as you go through this is to first, when you go to the website that you're going to be buying something from, make sure that the address in the address bar ends with HTTPS. What that does is it makes sure that at least the connection between your computer and the website is secure. Now, there are other things to look for when you're actually processing the payment. Some use Google Wallet, others use things like TrustWave or PayPal, and others just don't advertise what payment mechanism they use. So, as a general practice, it's a good idea to use a credit card that has a very low limit and is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a throwaway card for you. I know a lot of us have bank cards now that are tied directly to our checking accounts and our savings accounts, and while it's convenient to use those cards because you're paying cash and not credit, from a practical standpoint, if your data gets loose, if your card data gets out there because of a fraudulent site or the site got hacked and they didn't know it, or any of a number of those scenarios, if it's a low limit card and it's not tied directly to your bank card, the effect to you is minimal. You have to go through a process of fraud reporting with the credit card company, but your bank account is safe. However, if you do the same thing with your check card or whatever you're using that's tied directly to your bank account, and it gets out there and somebody uses it, chances are you're going to have a very slim pickings for the holiday season because crook will definitely try to zero out whatever you have available. So those are two on the kind of on the front end of things. As we go through the holiday season and as you do your shopping, come January, it would be a really good time to stop and check your credit report and to check your bank statements and check your credit card statements and just take a look through those three main resources and see if you can identify anything that doesn't belong. So if there's something there, a charge there that you don't recall making, that you have no record of, it's a good time to contact your credit card company and ask questions. And if they can't give you answers that ring a bell, go through the process of reporting a fraudulent charge. Because January, the end of December and January are really a sweet spot for identifying any potential fraud against you as a person. So, and it's because a lot of times crooks will try to hide transactions in the volume that we're doing around the holiday season.
And just as a reminder, really quick, on our website, on the security.apu.edu website, there's information on how to get your credit report so that
Yes.
you can look at that. Come January 1st, I'm going to run my credit report on at least one of the three major credit reporting bureaus.
And Holly, I believe you had mentioned a practice earlier that was shared with us by an APU staff person about
Yeah,
how they did that.
Yeah, one of our staff members here in IMT, what he does, because there's 3 different bureaus, he will check his credit on one bureau every 4 months. So that way he's pretty much checking his credit year-round. And they're all pretty simple to use, and they have ways to verify that you are who you say you are.
Right, right. And that's a great idea. That way you're constantly plugged in. I encourage people all the time when you get your monthly, your account statements from your credit cards and in your bank, always take a good scan through those and see if you can reconcile everything that you see there. That you should be able to know every charge that's on there, or at least be able to find out if it's a joint checking account or a shared card or whatever. If you can't, that's a red flag.
One thing I've noticed a lot lately, PayPal's been doing a lot of commercials. How is PayPal for using them to? Because I see a lot more websites that are saying pay with PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
What's your feeling on PayPal?
I'm kind of middle of the road on PayPal. It's useful in sites where you don't want to directly enter your credit card number. Um, at the same time, PayPal's also had a breach in the past. Actually, they've had a couple. So to me, it's a use with care kind of thing, or you could use it as an additional level of security. So use PayPal and then tie that low balance credit card to it and have a kind of a double layer of security there. It is convenient because a lot of times with PayPal, you're signing into it at the cart, and you're not putting out an actual card number.
Mm-hmm.
That is useful in case you're on a machine that has a virus on it or a keylogger or something like that. But at the end of the day, if you have a machine like that that isn't patched and has malware on it, then your PayPal credentials could get out there too. But again, it's a good extra layer of security. I personally believe that if you're using a low balance credit card that's separate from the rest of your main finances, it's a safer bet.
Sounds good. You mentioned malware. You want to explain to us what exactly is malware? Because there's been reports about password managers and getting attacked with malware. So could you explain to us what is malware and how that might work?
So a lot of us know malware by its older terminology of viruses or Trojans. Malware is a group of software that has nothing but malicious intent. Its goal is to get into your computer and steal either keystrokes so that they can decipher your usernames and passwords, and those will be sent back to the bad guys. It will look for bank account information if it ever crosses your screen. Some operate in a fashion of what we call screen scrapers. And what screen scrapers is essentially what they do is they take screenshots of whatever's on your screen at a periodic basis and send those back to the bad guy servers. So that if you have information up on your screen at a given point in time that contains your bank account number, your routing information, etc., they've got that, but through an image file rather than just text. And there's just an infinite number of kinds of malware out there. At the end of the day, it's all about stealing something. And there was an era, and there still is malware out there that is destructive, that it tries to do nothing but harm your computer. But in this day and age, it's mostly about theft of either your financial information or your identity.
Cool. I'm going to open up. I haven't seen any questions pop in yet in our question and answer box. So if you do have a question, go ahead and feel free to enter that in. We will, there is a delay, so we may not see it for a couple of minutes, but we will get to it as soon as we can. The other thing that we wanted to talk about today is what's known as the tech support scam. In the last year, these tech support scams have brought in about $120 million. Shawn, you want to talk to us about that and what that looks like?
Sure. Back in 2012 and then into 2013, the FTC launched a big crackdown, and what they took out was 2 large outbound call centers. So think about getting the cold calls, the sales and marketing calls, and you got the person on the other end of the line, and they know something about you, and they're trying to sell you something. This one was a little different, but it was that same concept. Essentially what it was a group of crooks running very large outbound call centers, meaning they had information that they were gathering from their shareware or software that would then prompt people to call in to activate the software. And when they called in, they would get on the hook for a sales pitch, which was really nothing more than a scare tactic about, hey, your computer's infected, I need to install remote access software so that I can show you what's going on. So for people who then allowed that remote connection into their home computer, the support tech, so-called, would then show up standard tools like the DOS prompt, like Event Viewer, all standard Windows system tools, and show them basically standard messages on your computer, but they would give them the interpretation that these were very bad things. So it was entirely about a scare. And then what they would do is say, well, if you buy our additional services for X amount of dollars, we'll fix all this for you. Now, there's actually, at this point, there's still nothing wrong with your computer. Nothing has ever been wrong with your computer. And the only mistake you've made so far is you downloaded their optimization software or whatever it was labeled as, and then you actually paid for it for 40, 60 bucks, and then called in the number. So all of those are bait and switch. They fool you into believing, 1, that there's something wrong with your computer, 2, that their software will fix it, 3, that their software didn't fix it. And then it dives into really what we know it as is a social engineering attack, where they then get you for another level of, well, now we've got you on the hook for 40 bucks for the software. Now we're going to take you for remote support. So it was a multi-layered attack, and it worked, and it still continues to work, even though those the FTC shut down those 2 major call centers. This attack is still out there. People are still falling for it left and right, and as the news article pointed out, I mean, so far it's 120 million and growing. That number is growing, and it's all done out of they leverage fear, is what they do.
Now, a few months ago, my father-in-law called us because he had gotten a phone call from, and they told him, oh yeah, there's a problem with your computer. We would like to help. We want to help you fix it. All of this. And he basically, thankfully, was smart enough to say, well, my grandson's coming over and he's going to be taking care of my computer. But
Right.
How do these groups get his initial information to start with to be able to make that phone call?
Well, unfortunately it's surprisingly easy to get a hold of someone's phone number or their email account. His information may have been in somebody's address book that got their account compromised. Family, friends that had his name, email address, and phone number, and say they had it in their Hotmail account, and lost their password. Somebody got into their account, or they got a piece of malware on there that went through and gathered all of that contact information. So it's really easy to find it and to find that information about people. And then the crooks just use it. They just cycle through. I mean, when they run these call centers and they're doing these outbound campaigns, they're extremely efficient and they're very professional organizations. And they've got a great sales pitch that works.
Yeah, and what's the best advice you can give us to help educate our parents' generation who aren't tech savvy? They are very unsure how to go about, they believe this person on the phone. And
Yeah.
how do we educate them to not be as trusting?
Yeah. So it's interesting because with this particular tech support scam, my mother-in-law actually had this happen to her. And what she did was, first thing she did was, after she got off the phone call and told them no, she called me. So the idea there is she reached out to somebody she knows and trusts to verify what she was being told. If you don't have anybody tech savvy in your friends and family group, then reach out to a known reputable organization. So Best Buy has the Geek Squad. There are plenty of companies that provide tech support that are reputable. Just look around to wherever whatever's in your area. If you don't have family and friends who are tech savvy available to you, but never ever trust the person on the phone.
Very good. Looking to see, we don't have any questions yet, but so if you do have a question, go ahead and put that in. We'd love to hear what you're thinking as far as whether it's questions about holiday shopping, the tech support scam, more about malware. We will, while we're waiting for a question to pop in, we do promote here at APU LastPass and Dashlane as password managers. The news that we've been hearing about malware attacking those. What do we need to think about? Do we need to be concerned about either one of these vendors? What are your thoughts there, Shawn?
So there is some news about there's new malware out there that is attacking password managers. Now, so far, the only password managers that are being attacked are two open source password managers that are really in the oldie but goodie list. And one of them is known as KeePass. Now, I've used KeePass a lot in the past, and then when I found LastPass, I switched to it. As of right now, there are no known attacks against LastPass and Dashlane or any of the other commercial password managers of good repute. Those are the two we recommend because they are fully cross-platform. They work on all Apple devices. They work on PCs. They're browser-based, so even if you're a Linux user, you can use them there. And the way that they store your data is completely secure, even from them. They can't access your data. So, Holly, you had a case with Dashlane where you couldn't remember your master password. What happened there?
That was a lot of fun. I had used Dashlane, then switched over to LastPass for a while, and then when I went back to Dashlane, I could not for the life of me remember that password. And basically what Dashlane did is they gave me this message on the screen that said if I wanted to continue using Dashlane with that personal email address, they were going to wipe clean all of the passwords that were stored there.
Right.
So basically they gave me a brand new account that was completely empty of everything, and I could still use the same email address that I wanted to use.
Yep. And LastPass has a very similar model. If you forget your master password with a password manager, they'll give you your account back, but it'll be empty because they can't access your data. It's not that they don't want to. They deliberately structured themselves so that they can't ever access your data. Your data is your data only. Now, from a legal standpoint, it works for them because they can never be served by the NSA with a national security letter, by the FBI, or any court because they don't have access to your data. They can't give out what they don't have. So that's really the beauty of it. The responsibility of it that's on us as end users of it is we have to remember that master password.
Yes, very
But
important.
for me, with over 300 some username and password combinations in my LastPass, remembering one is a great alternative.
Yeah, and for the record, for me, even though they wiped clean my Dashlane, I was able to import all of my passwords from LastPass into
Mm-hmm.
Dashlane. So I lost maybe half an hour at the most of time. So it worked very well. I have two questions. Let me ask the first one here. It came into my email. This
Mm-hmm.
person says, I lost my driver's license in Atlanta 2 years ago.
Okay.
How can they use that? That's the first part of the question. How do I protect my identity? I check my credit information and credit card statements regularly. Will that do it?
So if you lost your driver's license number, and your driver's license, they theoretically the best way to use that from a crook standpoint would be local. So they would be using it for things that don't do online verification of any kind. If they're foolish enough to try to open a card account or something else in your name, technically they probably could, but it would be difficult. From your standpoint in protecting yourself, it would be a good time to look into a credit freeze, which the information for that is available on security.ap.edu. And then just monitor your credit as you go. If you see unusual stuff pop up, take care of it as it comes. But the credit freeze will protect you from most things.
And then we do have a second question. This one is, I heard that LastPass is free for APU faculty, staff, and students. Is that true?
It is free for APU students, yes. So what that means is, as a student, if you sign up to LastPass with your student email address, your netid at apu.edu, LastPass will automatically recognize that it is an EDU account, and you'll have the premium version for free.
Why wouldn't you recommend it for faculty and staff?
I do recommend it for everybody.
Well, I know that this person's wondering why, as a staff or a faculty person, why wouldn't he be able to get the premium version free with his EDU account?
Oh, with your EDU account? Well, as a faculty or staff member, if you transition organizations and you change your email address, changing your username, which is what your email address will become with LastPass, is just not a fun process to go through. And I really recommend that you use your personal account as a staff member or faculty member, to sign up for it. Whereas our students don't have quite that same challenge.
Right. Okay, any other questions? We've got about 7 minutes left on our scheduled time, so if you've got some more questions, you can use the Q&A box, or like the other person, she emailed me and I was able to catch that pretty quick as well. Anything
Well,
else, Shawn, that you can think of that we want to talk about while we give people a couple more minutes?
sure, sure. I just saw this news article come across my desk a couple days ago, and I thought it was really fun. Because in our security awareness training, we talk about building good passwords and using passphrases, and developing a passphrase that is really easy for you to remember, but it's really hard for a password cracking tool or just guessing to ever get at because of length and complexity. And when we talk about building a good, strong password, we're talking about using a passphrase where you have like a part of a song lyrics or a Bible verse or a saying that means something to you, and then using spaces so it's properly spaced out, and then also using substitutions like replace O's with zeros and S's with dollar signs and A's with the @ sign. When you do simple things like that with a passphrase, it's really easy to remember because it's a phrase that it makes sense to you when you're typing it. And so it sticks with you better. And it's not this horribly short, complex thing. But then we also talk about really weak passwords. So the news article I came across, back in 2012, the FBI's then most wanted cyber criminal was they found him. They caught him. And they got a hold of his computer, and his computer was encrypted. And they got in because his password was based on his cat's name. So, you'll love this. Master hacker, FBI most wanted, password on his computer, Chewy123.
Nice.
Even crooks don't follow good practices sometimes.
Very cool. Well, I'm not seeing any. Let's see. I just heard a whistle on my phone. Let's make sure that's not a new email. Nope. Oh, here's another question. How would you recommend we approach our parents and their generation in trying to get them to be more secure online by using LastPass or Dashlane and assure them that it is secure?
So, when we're talking to people from different backgrounds, from different age ranges, really what we're talking about is a social question and not so much a technological question. And what I've had the most success with, just speaking personally, is relate to something they're familiar with. For instance, I had an example several years ago where I was working with a gentleman who was very into automotive stuff, but wasn't real big on technology. So in conversation with him and explaining how his computer worked and how to get certain things done that he wanted to accomplish, I related everything to automotive stuff. Made the comparison and association. Doing that, he got it completely. So when we're dealing with our grandparents and our parents and older generations, find things that make sense to them, that are from their generation, and then relate whatever you're trying to describe in technology to that. So for instance, with LastPass and Dashlane, you could be talking about a bank safe, you could be talking about a safety security box, any type of physical locked presence that they're more likely to be familiar with than the stuff that we are in our generation.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the safety deposit box, but that would make sense to my parents, and and in this case, this person's parents as well.
Right. Yeah, it's really about finding a common ground.
So, no more questions are popping in from any direction. So with that, we've got a couple of minutes. Shawn, any last thoughts as we go? We'll be back in January. We do have a security awareness class next Wednesday afternoon, and let me look and see what time that is so I can tell you exactly. That is at 2 p.m. next Wednesday, and that's going to be in the Darling Classroom 403. So if you've not attended our full security awareness class, it's a great time. We talk about a lot of different stuff related to identity theft and that type of thing. If you have coworkers who haven't attended the session, encourage them. It's very helpful, and we'd love to hear what their thoughts are, as it relates to APU. Sorry, Shawn, I wanted you to say something and I went into a commercial. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I don't really have anything else, so happy holidays, everybody, and stay safe out there.
All right. If you have any questions, always feel free to email iso@apu.edu, and we'll get those taken care of. God bless.